Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Welcome to the 100,000 subscriber interviews, a series of short interviews with people who have harnessed my work and seized the power. My next guest is ready, so let's find out more about them and their experiences. Hello, what's your name and where are you from?
Hi, HG. I'm Who Cares. I'm from Northern Ontario, Canada.
Welcome, Who Cares? Now, how did you come across my work?
Um, I had been in a 9-year romantic ensnarement with a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
I escaped, and I had preemptively sought emergency custody of our son.
Okay.
And not knowing anything about narcissism at the time, I just was trying to figure out what happened and what was up with his behavior. And I was Googling terms like my spouse thinks I'm sabotaging his life, paranoia, persecution beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, the term narcissist was being thrown around a lot in the media. It was around about the time when Trump came into office.
Okay.
And yes, so I remember, reading some of the descriptions of his behavior and thinking, narcissist, like my ex, like, nah, he's not a narcissist. But that was, based on mainstream descriptions of what a narcissist looked like and how they behaved. And it didn't quite fit the bill of my experiences with my ex. And then I think I stumbled upon a YouTuber who she was describing her familial experiences of narcissistic abuse.
Yeah.
And she happened to mention your terminology and your name.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, who's this HG tutor guy?
Mm-hmm.
So then, as a consequence of that, I found your blog and started reading. And suddenly, your explanations and descriptions of the behaviors of narcissists matched exactly what I had experienced in my relationship.
Okay.
And it was like textbook. Like it all started to make sense. So that's yeah.
Okay. So the situation with your ex and the co-parenting situation led you to my door. So the situation that you were experiencing, how would you describe it as affecting you?
Well, I was quite isolated at that time, like before I had escaped. In the context of the relationship, I thought like I was losing my mind. I wasn't functioning right at all. Um, it was, yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on, psychological, like physical, financial stuff. I think I had been in crisis mode for quite some time, and then yeah, I'm good.
So quite a weighty situation. Now, which of my books have you read?
Quite a few. I've read Fuel, Fury, Manipulated, The Devil's Toolkit, Sex and the Narcissist, Chained, Exorcism, Revenge, and the Confession series, Confessions of a Narcissist.
Good. And which of those did you find the most helpful and why?
Um, well, Fuel is of course, a really good book. It's sort of a primer, right, to understanding your work and how the narcissist functions. So that one was really enlightening, and it's like essential reading because it kind of underpins your framework, right, for understanding the narcissistic dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting Target. Oh, I think I forgot to mention that one in my list. But anyway, Sitting Target.
Just happened, so you've recovered that.
Yes, that was, I would say for me, that was the most impactful book because I know a lot of people say Sex and the Narcissist was, but for me, that one was because at that time I still maintained sort of some illusion about like the story of how I met my ex was something like it was a story I'd shared with a few people, and it was a nice story, and it was like a pretty story, and I sort of didn't until I read that book, I couldn't really let go of that. And then after reading Sitting Target, I realized that there was absolutely nothing pretty, nothing romantic about
Yes.
how we first met. And so that book sort of shattered any remaining illusions that I maintained about that experience. but the most enjoyable books for me personally were the Confession series.
Okay.
For the fascinating insight into you.
Yes, well, I'd agree with that. I'm a fascinating character, so interesting for you to learn more about me through that. Now, I know that you've dipped into the knowledge vault, and which product from the knowledge vault has helped you the most? Who cares?
I would say Fear and the Empath is probably my favorite,
Okay.
just because it took me overcoming a lot of my fears to escape. And just, I think that's it's really important to understand, like just in general, for empaths, how the narcissist uses fear against us. That one I have listened to repeatedly and benefited from that one. Also, like practically speaking, your assistance packages of yes, how to co-parent with the narcissist and Child Defender are like my absolute favorites. I still remember when you launched on your blog, like you were launching the
Yes.
assistance package for co-parenting with a narcissist, and I remember reading that and just thinking how many people that was going to help, like not just me, how many people and how many children like that would help.
Absolutely.
And I recall like whether or not you would have been receptive, just this urge to like give you a hug, because I'm like, that's like, it is one of the hardest situations to deal with,
Yes.
so with a narcissist. Yeah.
Yes. Your reaction to the provision of that's not too dissimilar to many other people that found it life-changing and life-saving. So absolutely good. Now, we've spoken previously. What made you organize an audio consultation with me? Who cares?
I think in the beginning, I recall asking you on the blog, actually, before I was in a position to have a consultation with you, asking you about greater narcissists and victimhood, because I was one of those people who thought in the beginning that they had been ensnared by a greater.
Yes.
And so, but I couldn't reconcile that with the victim-y sort of behaviors of my ex. So I remember asking you a lot of questions, and then I think reaching out to you by email to arrange a consultation. And shortly thereafter, I think I received, yes, it was a gift that my son's father had put in his gym bag after a visitation that made me concerned. And it was an hourglass. It was a sort of a decorative hourglass, like a novelty type one with magnetic stand in it. And that in context with some of his sort of more unstable and threatening behaviors, it felt more urgent to me to reach out to you to determine like how alarmed I should be, because at the time I didn't know. And I remember reaching out to you saying like, I need to sort of understand what I'm dealing with. Yeah. So that's what makes me do that.
Okay. And how did you feel just before you spoke to me the first time?
I was nervous, anxious. I recall, because after I escaped, we were staying with friends because we didn't have anywhere else to live. And one of those friends was a red wine drinker. And I remember thinking, like the day of the consultation, I'm saying to her, I'm going to be speaking with a narcissistic psychopath. And so we determined it was like late enough in the day. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll have like one glass of red wine just to calm my nerves. So I allowed myself that.
A bit of courage, huh? Okay.
But then once the consultation started, then I realized that, there was nothing to be concerned about, because you're very professional and you're very good at putting your clients at ease.
Thank you. Now, where are you at with your narcissist situation nowadays?
So I had a pretty strong no contact with, learn like applying your work in my own situation and listening to the co-parenting assistance package, which really sets out practical ways that you can do a really good no contact, even though you think that you can't in a co-parenting situation.
Yeah.
However, just so that like for about 2-3 years, everything was done through third parties. Our court order was written in such a way that there really was no direct communication. It was wonderful. Currently, for different reasons, my ex no longer has a lawyer, and I currently don't have a lawyer. So very recently, he's been using the dedicated email address that I had established for legal communications for personal communications. And and they're of a nature where I'm painted very white. Like, it's very interesting to me because you hear of it in other people's stories, and after being painted like the black is black for several years, I was comfortable with that. So this is different, him talking about wanting to rekindle the relationship and stuff. And I was so anyways, but that's so that sort of ruined my no contact. And that would be a topic though, hopefully maybe I have an upcoming consultation booked with you. So.
Yes, well, we will address that then. So yeah, you're in an improved situation, but an ongoing situation would probably be the appropriate way of describing it.
Yes.
Good. Okay. And what would you say, who cares, which part of my work has helped you the most and why?
Well, there's so many good aspects of your work that one could speak about, but I think for me, one of the things that part of your work that I really benefited from, other than the assistance packages, would be the blog community that you've created on your blog.
Okay.
Because I found that to be very supportive, like the individuals there, because when you don't know what you like, when you sort of arrive on your blog and you're just learning what you endured and starting to do the reading and apply the learning, and there isn't really anyone most of the time in your day-to-day life who grasps what happened.
Yeah.
And so those people, they went through something similar, and they're applying the reading, and I found, a lot of your people, part of your blog readership, those conversations very, very helpful. And so I appreciate you creating that space for people and for moderating when you have the time to do so.
You're welcome. Now, would you like to learn more about?
Well, empaths, of course, they all want to learn more about empaths. I'm very excited about your upcoming series. I was happy to see all the teaser stuff the other day. Looking forward to that. But specifically, I found that I have a real interest in the evolutionary aspects of like empaths and narcissists. So you touch on some of that in your addiction package for empaths. And of course, narcissists have evolved to have this defense mechanism, but just that piece I find very, very interesting, even sort of in an academic sense. So I hope that that's something you touch on more in the future.
Okay, thank you. And do you identify as an empath? Who cares? And if you do you know your school and your cadre?
Yes, I've done the empath detector. I am majority standard empath with a significant minority influence of super empath. And I'm a majority carrier empath with a significant minority influence of magnet empath.
Okay. Now, having learned so much about my kind, what's your view of narcissists now?
I actually find narcissists really just fascinating. Because it's not like you can avoid, like, obviously you go no contact where you can, or ghosto, right? Like when you find yourself in a situation where you're in a closer relationship, but in general, they're hard to avoid. So I find that in situations, in social situations and other things, like when I'm going through the court process, I'm actually constantly applying your work. So I'm sitting in court, I'm like trying to figure out, okay, which lawyers are narcissists, and are there any empaths? I'm constantly doing that, just assessing behavior and stuff, because I find it just fascinating. So they're curious creatures to me. They don't I don't want to be in close contact with one anymore at all, but I still find them fascinating.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. What's your favourite aspect of my work?
The your Knowing HG series. I personally, I found that series of benefit to me because especially and specifically the private forum for discussing KHG matters because it's been a very fun learning experience and interacting with the fellow clue hunters there. I just, like people find themselves, right, when they're in the sustained devaluation, like they've lost their sense of self, that's a reality. And, I remember sort of dumbing it down in the backwoods of Ontario in a little isolated piece of the woods and having lost that part of myself that loved learning and applying myself. And that I found that experience was very beneficial for me and sort of reignited my love of learning and that part of me that used to enjoy like more academic pursuits because I used to be more part of academia. And anyways, it was just that piece of me that it just found, and like this pouring over the information and stuff is just something that it's helped me in terms of knowing that I haven't lost it, that part of me. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that experience. And a shout out to the fellow clue hunters out there.
That's an interesting angle to that answer. And finally, who cares? What's your message to people listening?
If I'm going to say specifically those in a co-parenting situation, I think, because I know that's a really tough one, that to really make use of your expertise with that particular assistance package and or consulting with you, because you think it's almost like this long-term sentence to have to communicate, with your narcissist. And I think people would be really surprised how good a no contact they can achieve. And that they really should seek your assistance in that matter, because there's nothing out there, because all of the other sort of social services, like they're all about let's be kind and like friends with everybody, let's all get along, and that's not going to help you get through that unscathed. So not necessarily. It's like if you can do the best no contact you can in that situation, that's the thing to go for, and your work absolutely helps people do that.
Good. Who cares from Northern Ontario? Thank you for joining me and sharing your observations about my work.
Thank you, HG. It was fun to have a chat today.
You're welcome.